They said humanity was nothing special, just another species crawling through the cosmos, too young to matter, too weak to lead. The Galactic Council barely acknowledged Earth's existence, treating humans like children playing with toys they couldn't possibly understand. But when Marcus Chun, a simple repair technician from Earth's outer colonies, placed his calloused hands on an artifact that had been silent for 10,000 years, everything changed. The relic didn't just speak, it awakened. And its first words shattered every assumption the galaxy had about humanity's place in the universe. "My king," it whispered, "you have finally returned." What Marcus discovered that day would prove that humanity wasn't just another species. They were the inheritors of something far greater, something that would make the galaxy tremble and force every alien civilization to kneel before the true masters of the stars. This is the story of how one human's touch awakened an empire that had been sleeping since before the pyramids were built. Marcus Chun wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the massive crystalline structure before him. The artifact stood 12 feet tall in the center of the archaeological dig site on Kepler 442b, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow when he wasn't looking directly at them. The alien archaeologists from the Valdoran Empire had been studying it for 3 standard years without making any progress. "Just get it working again," Dr. Zefix had said, her 4 eyes blinking in that dismissive way the Valdorans used when dealing with humans. "Your species has some talent for fixing broken things. Perhaps you can succeed where true science has failed." Marcus adjusted his tool belt and approached the relic. He'd been called in because human technology seemed to interface well with ancient artifacts, though nobody understood why. The other species in the Galactic Council attributed it to humanity's primitive nature, claiming that younger civilizations sometimes had a crude compatibility with older systems. The relic's surface felt warm under his touch, which was strange because all the scans showed it had been dead for millennia. As Marcus ran his hands along the crystal formations, he noticed hairline fractures running through several key junction points. His engineering background kicked in, and he began to see the artifact not as some mysterious alien technology, but as a machine that needed repair. "The connections are severed," he muttered to himself, pulling out his plasma welder, like someone deliberately broke the neural pathways. Dr. Zefix scoffed from across the dig site. "Neural pathways? It's a computational matrix, not a biological entity. Your species' tendency to anthropomorphize everything is quite primitive." Marcus ignored her and continued his examination. The more he studied the relic, the more convinced he became that it was designed to interface with living beings, not just process data. The fractures weren't random damage from age. They were precise cuts, as if someone had surgically severed the connections to prevent the artifact from awakening. Working carefully, Marcus began to repair the damaged pathways. His hands moved with practiced precision, welding crystal to crystal, restoring connections that had been broken for thousands of years. With each repair, the relic seemed to grow warmer, and a faint humming began to emanate from deep within its structure. "Fascinating," Dr. Zefix admitted grudgingly. "The resonance frequency is increasing. How did you know to connect those particular matrices?" "Lucky guess," Marcus replied, but that wasn't entirely true. Something was guiding his hands, an instinct he couldn't explain. It felt like the artifact was showing him what needed to be done, drawing him toward the right connections. As the final pathway was restored, the relic suddenly blazed with brilliant light. The Valdoran research team scrambled backward, their sensitive eyes unable to handle the intensity, but Marcus found he could look directly into the light without discomfort. Within the brilliance, he could see shapes forming, geometric patterns that meant nothing to him consciously, but felt deeply familiar somehow. The light began to pulse, and with each pulse, Marcus heard something that made his blood run cold. It sounded like breathing, like something vast and ancient drawing its first breath in eons. The other researchers were chittering in panic. Their translator device is struggling to keep up with their rapid-fire alien languages, but Marcus remained calm, his hands still resting on the relic surface. "What have you done?" Dr. Zephyx demanded, her voice shrill with fear. "The energy readings are off the charts. This could destabilize the entire system." Before Marcus could answer, the breathing sound stopped, replaced by something infinitely more disturbing. The sound of a consciousness awakening. The relic's light condensed, forming swirling patterns that seemed to reach into Marcus's mind, probing, searching, recognizing. Then it spoke. The voice that emerged from the relic was neither mechanical nor organic, but something that transcended both categories. It resonated not just in the air, but in Marcus's bones, his very DNA. When it spoke, every human instinct he possessed screamed in recognition, as if he was hearing the voice of a long-lost parent. "My king," the relic said, its words causing the Valdoran researchers to collapse in terror. "You have finally returned to reclaim what was always yours." Marcus staggered backward, his mind reeling. "I'm not a king. I'm just a repair technician. You've made a mistake." The relic's light intensified, and suddenly, Marcus could feel its consciousness pressing against his own, vast and ancient beyond comprehension. Images flooded his mind, glimpses of a galactic empire that spanned thousands of worlds, ships larger than moons, technologies that could reshape reality itself. And at the center of it all, figures that looked unmistakably human, ruling over countless alien species with wisdom and power. "There is no mistake," the relic continued. "The blood remembers, even when the mind forgets. You carry the genetic markers of the First Dynasty, the lineage that once commanded the stars themselves." Dr. Zephyx had managed to activate her emergency communicator, calling for immediate evacuation. "Command, this is Archaeological Team 7. The human has triggered some kind of ancient AI, requesting immediate extraction and military support." The relic's attention turned to the terrified Valdoran, and its voice carried a note of amusement that chilled Marcus to the bone. The Valdorans, still scurrying about, playing at civilization. "Tell me, little one, do your people still teach their children about the Great Subjugation?" "The what?" Dr. Zephyx's voice was barely a whisper. "Ah, they've edited their histories again. How typical." The relic's consciousness pressed deeper into Marcus's mind, sharing knowledge that humanity had never possessed. "Your species was among the first to kneel before the Terran Empire, Dr. Zephyx. Your ancestors served as administrators in the outer systems, grateful for the privilege of serving true masters." Marcus felt sick. That's impossible. Humanity has only been spacefaring for a few centuries. We're one of the youngest species in the galaxy. Young. The relic's laughter was like the sound of stars being born. "Oh, my king, how much they've hidden from you. Humanity ruled this galaxy for over 15,000 years. Every species you see today, the Valdorans, the Centauran Federation, the hegemony of worlds, they all existed at the sufferance of human authority. The archaeological site was in chaos now. Valdoran security forces were arriving, their weapons trained on Marcus and the glowing relic. But their plasma rifles seemed pitiful compared to the power emanating from the ancient artifact. "Stand down," the security commander ordered. "Human, step away from the device immediately." The relic's response was swift and terrifying. Energy lanced out from its crystalline structure, not to destroy the security forces, but to simply stop them. The Valdoran soldiers found themselves frozen in place, their weapons deactivated, their bodies immobilized by some force beyond their understanding. "You will show proper respect," the relic announced, when addressing the heir to the Terran throne. Marcus was hyperventilating. This had to be some kind of elaborate hoax or misunderstanding. "I'm from a mining colony on Earth's moon. My parents were mechanics. I'm nobody special. Your parents were mechanics because that's what they needed to be," the relic explained patiently. "The Terran Empire didn't fall. My king, it chose to sleep. When the great enemy threatened all life in the galaxy, your ancestors made a terrible sacrifice. They allowed their empire to be forgotten, their technology to be hidden, their people to be scattered and diminished, all to ensure that when the enemy returned, humanity would be overlooked, underestimated, and ready to strike from the shadows. More images flooded Marcus's consciousness. He saw human fleets engaging something that defied description, entities from beyond the galaxy's edge that consumed entire star systems. He watched as human leaders made the agonizing decision to abandon their empire, to let their people forget their heritage and live as apparent primitives while ancient guardians like this relic waited in hiding. The enemy sleeps still, the relic continued, but the galaxy grows weak. The successor species squabble like children while the real threats gather strength in the dark between stars. It's time for humanity to reclaim its birthright. Dr. Zephyx had managed to free herself from the relic's paralysis field and was backing toward the excavation exit. This is madness. Humans are a client species at best. The idea that they once ruled the galaxy is preposterous. Is it? The relic's attention focused on her like a laser beam. Tell me, Dr. Zephyx, why do you think human technology interfaces so well with ancient artifacts? Why do human repair techniques work on systems that predate your civilization by millennia? Why do humans alone seem capable of understanding technologies that we supposedly lack the advancement to comprehend? Marcus realized with growing horror that the relic was right. Throughout his career, he'd noticed that human technicians were disproportionately successful at repairing ancient tech. Other species studied these artifacts for decades without progress, but humans could often fix them with what seemed like intuitive understanding. It's because these systems recognize their creators' descendants, the relic explained. Every piece of ancient technology in this galaxy was built by human hands, designed by human minds, powered by human innovation. You're not fixing alien artifacts, my king. You're repairing your inheritance. The communication system Dr. Zephyx had activated was now broadcasting the conversation across the Valdoran fleet orbiting the planet. Marcus could hear the panicked chatter of alien voices as the revelation spread through their ranks. Some were dismissing it as impossible, others were demanding immediate military action, and a few were beginning to piece together historical inconsistencies that suddenly made terrible sense. The Galactic Council will never accept this, Dr. Zephyx said, her voice shaking. Even if what you claim is true, humanity doesn't have the strength to reclaim anything. You're scattered across a handful of worlds with primitive technology. Primitive? The relic's amusement was palpable. Show her, my king. Let her see what human primitives are truly capable of. Before Marcus could protest, the relic reached into his mind and activated knowledge he didn't know he possessed. Suddenly, he understood the crystalline structure before him not as an ancient artifact, but as a communication array, one of thousands scattered throughout the galaxy, waiting for the signal to awaken. Send the call, the relic urged. Let your people know that the time of hiding is over. Marcus hesitated. If this was real, if humanity really had once ruled the galaxy, then activating the other relics would change everything. The careful balance of power between alien civilizations would collapse overnight. Wars would be inevitable. But if he did nothing, and the relic was telling the truth about some greater threat still sleeping in the void, then the galaxy might face something far worse than war. I need proof, Marcus said. Show me something that proves humanity's true history. The relic's response was to project a holographic display that filled the entire archaeological site. The image showed Earth as it had been 15,000 years ago, but it wasn't the primitive world that human history books described. Instead, Marcus saw a planet covered in cities that stretched from ground to sky, orbital elevators that reached into space like silver threads, and shipyards that dwarfed anything in the current galaxy. The capital of an empire that spanned 40,000 worlds, the relic said softly. Your true inheritance, hidden from you for so long. As the hologram continued, Marcus saw the construction of the relic network. Thousands of communication arrays buried on worlds throughout the galaxy, designed to remain hidden until humanity was ready to reclaim its throne. He watched as human engineers deliberately primitized their technology, creating simpler versions that would seem appropriate for a young species, while hiding the true capabilities beneath layers of deception. The final image showed human families being relocated to frontier worlds, their memories selectively edited to believe they were pioneers rather than refugees from a fallen empire. Children grew up thinking their parents were simple colonists, never knowing they carried the genetic legacy of galactic rulers. "We are the descendants of kings," Marcus whispered, finally understanding. "You are the kings," the relic corrected. The throne was never abdicated, merely left empty until it was safe to return. Dr. Zephyx had reached the excavation exit, but she turned back one final time. Even if this is all true, the other species will never submit. They have their own fleets, their own territories. They won't give up what they've built. The relic's response sent chills through every being present. They will submit or they will burn. The choice, as always, will be theirs. Marcus stared at the ancient artifact, feeling the weight of an empire pressing down on his shoulders. In the space of an hour, he had gone from being a simple repair technician to the heir of a galactic throne. The relic was waiting for his decision, its consciousness patient but expectant. Around the archaeological site, Valdoran forces were regrouping, calling for reinforcements and preparing for whatever might come next. But Marcus could feel it now, a network of sleeping relics throughout the galaxy, all waiting for his word to awaken. With a single command, he could announce humanity's return to a universe that had forgotten its true masters. The question was whether he had the courage to change the galaxy forever, or whether he should leave the ancient powers sleeping for another age. As the relic's warm presence filled his mind, Marcus realized that the choice had already been made the moment he repaired the first connection. Humanity's exile was over. The real question was what kind of rulers they would choose to become. Marcus took a deep breath and placed both hands on the relic surface. The decision felt inevitable, like a river finally reaching the ocean. "Do it. Send the signal." The response was immediate and overwhelming. The crystalline structure blazed with light so intense it could be seen from orbit, and across the galaxy, identical relics buried on forgotten worlds began to awaken. Marcus felt each activation like a pulse in his own heartbeat. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of ancient communication arrays coming online after millennia of silence. Dr. Zephyx screamed as the psychic resonance hit her. The Valdoran military forces collapsed, their minds unable to process the sheer scope of what was happening. Even Marcus struggled to maintain consciousness as the relic network established its connections, creating a communication grid that spanned the entire galaxy in seconds. "It is done," the relic announced, its voice now carrying the harmonic resonance of thousands of its siblings. The network awakens. The signal spreads. Humanity will remember. On Earth, an identical relic buried beneath the Antarctic ice suddenly blazed to life, sending shockwaves through the planet's crust. The human governments initially assumed it was a seismic event until reports began flooding in from every human colony in known space. Ancient artifacts and museums were activating, derelict ships found in deep space were powering up, and ruins that had been studied for decades were suddenly revealing their true purpose. But the most profound changes were happening to humans themselves. Captain Sarah Voss of the merchant vessel Endeavour was negotiating a trade deal with hegemony officials when the wave hit her. Suddenly, her mind filled with knowledge she had never learned. Star charts to systems that weren't supposed to exist, engineering principles that could revolutionize technology, and tactical doctrines for commanding fleets larger than anything currently in space. She looked at the alien traders across from her and realized that she was seeing them as her ancestors had, as subjects, not equals. On the agricultural world of New Manitoba, Farmer John Harrison felt the activation like lightning through his nervous system. The primitive harvesting equipment around him suddenly seemed laughably inefficient as his awakened consciousness understood how to build machines that could terraform entire planets. He walked to his barn and placed his hand on what he had always thought was a decorative metal panel, only to watch it transform into a control interface for planetary engineering systems hidden beneath the soil. In the Sol system, Admiral Rebecca Torres was reviewing defensive plans when every piece of ancient technology on her flagship suddenly came alive. Sections of her ship that had been sealed off as decorative bulkheads revealed themselves to be weapon systems that could crack moons. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Chun, Marcus's cousin, though neither knew it yet, gasped as targeting computers began showing him how to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. The awakening wasn't limited to technology. Human DNA itself was responding to the signal, unlocking genetic sequences that had been dormant for 15,000 years. Humans throughout the galaxy found their physical capabilities increasing, their minds processing information faster, their lifespans extending as cellular repair mechanisms activated. But the most dramatic changes were psychological. Humans who had lived their entire lives accepting alien authority suddenly found themselves unable to take orders from species they now recognized as evolutionary inferiors. The careful hierarchy of the Galactic Council began to crumble as human workers, soldiers, and administrators across the galaxy simply stopped acknowledging alien authority. On the Centauran capital world, Ambassador Maria Santos was in the middle of trade negotiations when the awakening hit her. The Centauran official she had been deferentially negotiating with suddenly seemed small and pathetic, their concerns trivial. She stood up from the negotiating table and spoke with an authority that made the aliens instinctively step back. "These negotiations are concluded," she announced. "The Terran Empire hereby reclaims all systems within the traditional human sphere. You have 48 standard hours to evacuate your administrative personnel." The lead Centauran negotiator's translator struggled with her words. "Empire? Ambassador Santos, humans don't have an empire. You're a client species of the Galactic Council." Maria smiled, and the expression was terrifying. "Check your history more carefully. Cross-reference archaeological findings with political boundaries. Ask yourself why human settlements always seem to be built on the ruins of much older structures. Then, ask yourself why your people's oldest legends speak of serving the sky fathers who ruled from beyond the stars." Meanwhile, on Kepler 442b, Marcus was experiencing the most intense awakening of all. As the primary conduit for the Relic network, he was receiving direct downloads of Imperial knowledge. Military strategies, diplomatic protocols, administrative structures. 15,000 years of governmental experience was being compressed into his consciousness. The Relic was no longer just speaking to him. It was becoming part of him, integrating with his nervous system in ways that should have been impossible. He could feel every human in the galaxy as they awakened, sense their confusion and growing understanding, monitor their physiological changes as dormant genetic sequences activated. "The transformation progresses well," the Relic reported. "Estimated time to full awakening, 72 hours. Current human population showing genetic compatibility, 97%. Resistance to neural integration, negligible." Dr. Zefix had managed to regain consciousness and was recording everything on a hidden device. "You're describing some kind of mass mind control. This is a violation of every principle of galactic law." Marcus turned to her, and she gasped at what she saw. His eyes now held flecks of the same crystalline light as the Relic, and when he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that made her bones vibrate. "Galactic law was written by species that forgot they were governed by human permission," he said. "These laws have no authority over the rightful rulers of this galaxy." The Valdoran reinforcements were arriving in orbit, but their approach was being monitored by awakening humans throughout local space. Traffic controller Janet Kim, working in the system's orbital station, found herself accessing databases she shouldn't have known existed. With casual efficiency, She began redirecting the Valdoran fleet's navigation systems, sending them on courses that would take them far from Kepler 442b. Orbital control to Valdoran Fleet Command, she transmitted. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. Human authority supersedes your jurisdiction. The Valdoran Fleet Commander's response was predictably outraged. Orbital control. Humans have no authority to issue such orders. We are responding to a legitimate archaeological emergency. Janet's reply came with the backing of awakening Imperial consciousness. Commander, your species held administrative authority in this sector under Terran Imperial Charter 7429 Delta. That charter has been revoked. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of challenging Imperial authority. The fleet commander tried to dismiss her words, but his navigation officer was reporting something impossible. Every star chart in their database was being overwritten with new information, showing political boundaries that didn't match current galactic maps. According to their own computers, they were currently in violation of human territory, and their presence constituted an act of war. Back on the planet's surface, Marcus was struggling to process the sheer scope of what was happening. Through the Relic network, he could sense human awakening across thousands of worlds. Former miners were revealing hidden shipyards. Agricultural workers were activating terraforming systems. Scientists were accessing research databases that contained technologies beyond anything the current galaxy possessed. But he could also sense the alien response. Panic was spreading through the Galactic Council as reports flooded in from every sector. Human populations were declaring independence, claiming territory, and demonstrating capabilities that contradicted everything the aliens thought they knew about humanity's technological level. They're mobilizing their fleets, Marcus reported, reading the data streams flowing through the Relic network. The hegemony is declaring martial law in all systems with significant human populations. The Centaurans are calling for an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Let them come, the Relic responded with calm certainty. They will learn what their ancestors knew. The humans don't just fight wars, we end them. Dr. Zephix was frantically trying to contact her government, but her communication attempts were being intercepted by awakening humans throughout the sector. Every message she sent was being read, analyzed, and countered before it could reach its destination. You can't just override galactic communication networks, she protested. There are protocols, treaties, established procedures. Marcus was examining the data flowing through the Relic when he discovered something that chilled him. The protocols were designed by us. Every major communication array in the galaxy was built using human technology, even the ones the aliens think they created themselves. We've been monitoring their communications for 15,000 years. The revelation was staggering. The entire galactic infrastructure, communication networks, shipping lanes, even the space stations used for interstellar government, had been built using technology that humans had carefully leaked to alien civilizations over millennia. Every species in the galaxy was essentially using human tools to run their societies, never realizing they were subject to observation and control. The Great Deception, the Relic explained as Marcus accessed deeper layers of Imperial history. Your ancestors didn't just abandon their empire, they hid it in plain sight. Every advancement the successor species achieved was carefully guided. Every technology they developed was based on simplified versions of human innovations. They've been living in a simulation of independence while the true power structure remained intact. The psychological impact on awakening humans was profound. People who had spent their lives feeling like junior partners in galactic civilizations suddenly realized they were the secret architects of everything around them. The humility that had characterized human interaction with alien species evaporated overnight, replaced by the confidence of rulers reclaiming their rightful position. On New Geneva, the human agricultural colony that supplied food to 3-star systems, Governor Lisa Park was meeting with alien trade representatives when the awakening reached her. As Imperial knowledge flooded her consciousness, she realized that the trade agreements her colony operated under were actually forms of tribute that alien species paid for the privilege of receiving human agricultural expertise. "The meetings are concluded," she announced, standing with newfound authority. "This system is returning to direct imperial administration. All non-human personnel have 72 hours to arrange alternative supply sources." The alien representatives were stunned. "Governor Park, this colony depends on our trade relationships. Without our shipping networks, you can't reach your markets." Lisa smiled as she accessed shipping databases she hadn't known existed. "Actually, we own the shipping networks. We always have. The companies you think you're trading with are subsidiaries of human corporations that have been operating under alien cover identities for millennia." The revelation was spreading throughout human space as awakening individuals accessed their genetic memories and the databases hidden in the Relic network. Humans weren't just discovering that they had once ruled the galaxy. They were learning that they had never really stopped ruling it. Meanwhile, alien governments were beginning to realize the scope of what they were facing. This wasn't a rebellion or independence movement. It was the awakening of a sleeping giant that had been quietly controlling galactic civilization while pretending to be powerless. Emergency sessions were being called in every major alien capital. Military forces were being mobilized. Diplomatic channels were burning with panicked communications as species that had considered humans to be primitive clients suddenly found themselves cut off from technologies and resources they had taken for granted. But the aliens were about to discover that 15,000 years of hidden preparation had given humanity advantages that went far beyond advanced technology. As the Relic network reached full activation, Marcus began to understand the true scope of human power in the galaxy. They weren't just reclaiming an empire. They were revealing that the empire had never fallen. It had simply been operating from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to step back into the light. And that moment had finally arrived. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session aboard their massive station orbiting the neutral world of Concordia. Representatives from 43 species gathered in the Great Chamber, their voices creating a cacophony of panic and confusion as translators struggled to keep up with the rapid-fire discussions. Chancellor Vrex of the Hegemony called for order, his 6 arms gesturing emphatically. "The situation is unprecedented. Human populations throughout the galaxy have simultaneously declared independence and are claiming territories that belong to sovereign member states." The Centauran delegate, Prime Speaker Ulith, was reviewing data on her personal display. "It's worse than independence movements. They're demonstrating technological capabilities that our intelligence services insist they shouldn't possess. Human colonies are activating defensive systems that can repel entire battle fleets." But the most disturbing reports were coming from the investigation teams sent to archaeological sites throughout the galaxy. Dr. Zefix's transmission from Kepler 442b had been received before human jamming cut off all communication with the system, and its implications were staggering. According to the preliminary analysis, reported chief archaeologist then of the Valdoran Empire, every major ancient site in our territories contains technology that matches what the humans are now revealing. If their claims about the Terran Empire are accurate, then virtually every piece of advanced archaeology in the galaxy is of human origin. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The technological foundations of galactic civilization, the faster-than-light communication arrays, the gravitational manipulation systems that powered interstellar transport, the energy matrices that ran their cities, all of it might be based on human innovation. Chancellor Vrex was reviewing military reports when an aide whispered urgently in his ear. His expression darkened as he absorbed the information. "I'm receiving word that our fleet dispatched to contain the human rebellion in the Kepler system has disappeared." "Disappeared?" Prime Speaker Ulith leaned forward. "Define disappeared." "They're gone. No debris, no registro signals, no trace." 12 heavy cruisers and their escort ships simply vanished from all sensors at the edge of the Kepler system. On Kepler 442b, Marcus was learning exactly what had happened to that fleet. Through the Relic network, he could observe every human awakening throughout the galaxy, including the crew of Admiral Torres's flagship in the Sol system. As the Valdoran fleet approached human space, Torres had activated weapons systems that had been hidden in her ship's hull for decades. The Valdoran fleet has been relocated, the Relic informed him. Admiral Torres utilized displacement technology to transport them to a dead system approximately 1,000 light-years from their intended destination. They are unharmed but will require several months to return to civilized space. Marcus was still struggling to accept the reality of his situation. We could have destroyed them easily, couldn't we? Effortlessly, the Relic confirmed. But the Imperial doctrine has always favored demonstration over destruction. Terror is more effective than violence, and survival builds legend. The aliens will spend months wondering how an entire fleet was made to simply vanish. Fear of the unknown is humanity's oldest weapon. Dr. Zephyx was still present at the archaeological site, though she was now effectively a prisoner. The awakening humans throughout the system had established a communication network that monitored every transmission, making escape or outside contact impossible. "This is madness," she said to Marcus, who was now fully integrated with the Relic network and glowing with its crystalline light. Even if humans once ruled the galaxy, that was 15,000 years ago. Civilizations have grown, territories have been claimed, entire species have evolved. You can't just reclaim everything and expect the galaxy to submit. Marcus turned to her, and she saw that his eyes now held the depth of someone with access to millennia of knowledge. "Dr. Zephyx, let me show you something your people have forgotten." He gestured to the Relic, and it projected a holographic display that filled the archaeological site. The image showed the Valdoran home system as it currently existed, with its orbital habitats and mining stations clearly visible. "This is your system today," Marcus explained. "Now watch." The hologram shifted, showing the same system as it had existed 15,000 years ago. The Valdoran homeworld was there, but it was a primitive planet with a pre-industrial civilization. Orbiting it were massive human constructs, orbital cities, mining platforms, and manufacturing stations that dwarfed anything the modern Valdorans had built. Your ancestors were barely capable of agriculture when humans built this infrastructure, Marcus continued. When the Terran Empire went into hiding, they left these stations operational under automated management, slowly transferring control to your developing civilization as you became capable of understanding the technology. Dr. Zephyx stared at the display in horror. "You're saying we never built our own civilization? That we're just caretakers of human construction?" "All species in the galaxy are," Marcus confirmed. "The great cities of the Centauran Federation, built on the foundations of human settlements. The trading networks of the hegemony, operating along shipping lanes established by human exploration. Even the Galactic Council itself meets in a station originally constructed as a human administrative hub. The revelation was being confirmed throughout the galaxy as awakening humans accessed historical databases and shared their findings through the Relic network. Every major alien achievement could be traced back to human guidance or infrastructure. The illusion of independent development was crumbling as the true scope of human influence became clear. On the Council station orbiting Concordia, emergency protocols were being activated as the delegates realized they were sitting inside what might be human territory. Chief Engineer Corvin was running deep scans of the station's infrastructure when he made a disturbing discovery. "Chancellor," he reported, his voice shaking. "The station's core systems are responding to external signals. Something is accessing our primary databases and changing our operational parameters." The external signals were coming from awakening humans throughout the galaxy. As their genetic memories activated, they were automatically gaining access to systems they had helped design millennia ago. The Galactic Council was discovering that their most secure facilities had been transparent to human observation all along. Back on Kepler, 442b, Marcus was experiencing something unprecedented. The Relic Network was offering him administrative access to galactic infrastructure on a scale that defied comprehension. He could shut down faster-than-light communication throughout alien space, redirect the shipping routes that supplied their food, even control the atmosphere processors that made their worlds habitable. The power is overwhelming, he admitted to the Relic. How did our ancestors manage this level of responsibility? With wisdom earned through necessity, the Relic replied. The galaxy is not a simple place, my king. The species you see today developed under human protection, guided away from the mistakes that destroyed previous civilizations. Your ancestors didn't rule through force. They ruled through careful cultivation of younger species who couldn't be trusted with unlimited power. The Relic began sharing deeper historical records, showing Marcus the real reason for humanity's withdrawal. The great enemy hadn't been a single species or even a coalition of species. It had been something far worse, a form of consciousness that could spread through advanced civilizations like a virus, turning their own technology against them. The enemy infected entire star systems. The Relic explained, showing images of planets where the very matter had been corrupted, twisted into forms that served alien purposes. It fed on advanced civilizations, using their technological achievements to spread to new worlds. Your ancestors realized that the only way to defeat it was to appear vulnerable while secretly maintaining the ability to strike. Marcus watched in horror as the historical records showed how human worlds had deliberately primatized themselves, hiding their true capabilities while the enemy searched for advanced civilizations to consume. The strategy had worked. The enemy had dismissed humanity as too primitive to be worth attacking and had eventually retreated beyond the galaxy's edge to search for more sophisticated prey. But why didn't we rebuild openly after the enemy left? Marcus asked. Because the enemy might return, the Relic replied grimly, and because the successor species needed time to mature. Your ancestors hoped that by the time humanity revealed itself again, the other races would be wise enough to accept guidance rather than rebel against it. That hope was about to be tested. Throughout the galaxy, alien governments were making the decision that would determine the future of galactic civilization. Some species, like the pragmatic Altarians, were already sending diplomatic messages acknowledging human authority and requesting terms for continued cooperation. Others were mobilizing for war. The war faction was led by the hegemony of worlds, whose military had been considered the most powerful force in the galaxy. Chancellor Vrex was addressing an emergency military council when reports began flooding in from their forward bases. Sir, his military aide reported, we're receiving surrender messages from our entire 7th Fleet. They claim they're surrounded by human ships, but our sensors show empty space. That's impossible, Vrex declared. Humans don't have a significant military presence anywhere in that sector. The aide's expression was grim. The fleet commander is requesting permission to surrender to forces he describes as invisible titans that make our ships look like toys. Sir, Admiral Crace is not known for exaggeration or cowardice. What Admiral Crace was experiencing was the activation of human stealth technology that had been hidden throughout the galaxy for millennia. Ships larger than space stations were decloaking around his fleet, their hulls bearing symbols that predated written history. These weren't newly built vessels. They were original Terran Imperial ships that had been waiting in hidden bases throughout the galaxy. Captain Elena Vasquez of the hidden dreadnought Eternal Vigilance was leading the intimidation operation. Like all humans aboard the secret ships, she had been awakened by the Relic Network and given access to Imperial military protocols. Hegemony Fleet, she transmitted on open channels, you are trespassing in Terran Imperial space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Crace was staring at sensor readings that defied belief. The human ships surrounding his fleet were larger than anything he had ever seen, and they were appearing on sensors that should have detected them light years away. Captain Vasquez, he replied, his voice carefully controlled. I was unaware that humans possessed vessels of this class. My government will need to reassess our territorial agreements. Elena smiled grimly. Admiral, there will be no reassessment. There will be submission or destruction. Choose quickly. The same scene was playing out throughout the galaxy as hidden human fleets revealed themselves. The careful balance of power that had existed for thousands of years was crumbling as the true masters of galactic civilization stepped out of the shadows. On the Galactic Council station, the delegates were watching their military forces surrender or flee as human ships demonstrated technologies that shouldn't exist. Chancellor Vrex was trying to maintain order when a new voice joined their communication network. Honored delegates, came a voice that carried the authority of ages. This is Emperor Marcus Chun of the restored Terran Empire. Marcus was still on Kepler 442b, but the Relic network was allowing him to address every major government in the galaxy simultaneously. Dr. Zephyx watched in amazement as the simple repair technician she had dismissed hours earlier spoke with the confidence of someone born to rule worlds. The period of human exile is concluded, Marcus continued. For 15,000 years, our species has guided galactic development from the shadows, allowing younger civilizations to grow under our protection. The time has come for us to resume direct governance. The response from the Galactic Council was immediate and heated. Chancellor Vrex's voice carried the outrage of someone whose world had just been turned upside down. Human Marcus Chun, you have no authority to claim imperial status. The Terran Empire, if it ever existed, fell millennia ago. The current galactic government represents the legitimate will of 43 sovereign species. Marcus's reply was patient, but firm. Chancellor Vrex, your authority derives from administrative privileges granted by human imperial charter. Those privileges are hereby revoked. You have 72 standard hours to arrange the peaceful transfer of governmental functions to imperial administrators. And if we refuse, demanded Prime Speaker Yulith. The answer came not from Marcus, but from the Relic network itself, speaking through communication arrays throughout the galaxy. Then, you will discover why your ancestors called humans the Eternal Throne. We have been patient rulers, but we are still rulers. Test our resolve at your own peril. As if to emphasize the point, every piece of advanced technology in alien space suddenly displayed a message in ancient Terran script. Power grids flickered, communications networks transmitted imperial symbols, and even personal devices showed their true ownership. The message was clear. Everything the aliens depended on belonged to humanity and always had. The transition period that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Some species, recognizing the futility of resistance, negotiated peaceful integration into the restored empire. Others attempted rebellion, only to discover that their weapons wouldn't function, their ships couldn't travel, and their communications were subject to imperial oversight. Dr. Zephyx, now serving as an unofficial liaison between the Valdoran government and the emerging imperial administration, found herself witnessing the birth of a new galactic order. Will it be like before? She asked Marcus as they watched human fleets taking position around major alien worlds. Will you rule through fear and subjugation? Marcus, now fully integrated with the Imperial Consciousness Network, considered the question carefully. No, Dr. Zephyx. Our ancestors ruled through wisdom and guidance, not fear. The younger species will be partners in building something greater than any of US could achieve alone. But they will be junior partners, and they will remember their place. The restoration of the Terran Empire marked the end of one age and the beginning of another. As human administrators took control of galactic infrastructure and revealed the true scope of their technological capabilities, a new order emerged that combined the wisdom of ancient rule with the possibilities of a galaxy that had grown far beyond what the original empire had encompassed. And in the center of it all, Marcus Chun, former repair technician, now emperor of 40,000 worlds, worked with an ancient relic to build a future worthy of humanity's long exile and triumphant return. The age of hiding was over. The age of empire had begun again.